Hello, hello, hello. I'm Nicholas Rosseinsky. I'm a consciousness scientist and transformational coach, and I have the delight and privilege of being here for the next 13 weeks or so to talk with you about this amazing topic, the frontiers of therapy and spirituality. And for the past several years now, one of the main pathways for me to stumble towards and around these frontiers has been the work of Richard Harvey, in particular his Sacred Attention Therapy, or SAT, which, as many of you know, is the foundational offering at the Center for Human Awakening, www.centerforhumanawakening.com. Now, as those of you who are already familiar with SAT will recognize, SAT itself is already a leading edge offering, a sort of frontier in itself. But over these 13 weeks, I'm not going to be talking directly about the content of SAT, but rather the frontiers of SAT. So the frontiers of the frontiers, if you like. So why go there? Why go to the frontiers of the frontiers when what we already have in SAT as it is today, for example, is this vast, deep richness of work? Why not focus on exploring and communicating that rather than going to the frontiers or the frontiers of the frontiers? So it seems to me that there are some clocks ticking, a cosmic clock and a terrestrial clock. And the ticking of these clocks calls for what I sometimes speak of as a considered urgency. Movement in multiple dimensions simultaneously and ideally coherently. And so what we need to do is both take in, take on, and apply the vast, deep richness of what we already have, and look to the frontiers to explore there and bring that back to what we already have so that we can fully realize its extraordinary potential. So let's start by saying a bit more about the sorts of frontier that I have in mind. And let's begin with the three-stage version of SAT, or Sacred Attention Therapy, that's at the heart of Richard's work. And if you don't have an overall sense of this work, its structure, well, you should, because it's totally amazing. You could start with Richard's book, Your Essential Self. You could visit the extensive resources online at centerforhumanawakening.com, or you could visit Richard's personal website, therapyandspirituality.com. As a brief introduction, I'll just provide this oversimplified hymn of orienting praise. In delineating the stage 1 to stage 2 transition, Richard offers a radically new characterization of the fullest potential for psychological psychotherapy in the total relinquishment of child self-identification. And in doing this, Richard effectively integrates all of Western 20th century therapeutic approaches and extends them in the process. In delineating the stage 2 to stage 3 transition, Richard clearly draws an absolutely crucial distinction between attaining psychological wholeness in entering stage 2 and moving towards cosmic oneness at the stage 3 transition. So for the first time, to my knowledge, Richard brilliantly illuminates two very different kinds of awakening and the orientations, practices, and processes appropriate to each. At the same time, he does all of this in a seamlessly integrated way, setting the 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 stage transitions in a common, coherent context. Now, if SAT 1 to 3 is the starting point, the basic territory, so to speak, what are the frontiers? After all, by design or by nature, SAT looks like a pretty comprehensive approach to the human condition. And what frontiers can there really be for the comprehensive? Well, to start with, there's the potential expansion of SAT 1 to 3 in itself, so to speak. For example, we could advance the current frontier of technical understandings of what works and how and why it works. We could also expand what I call the motifs in the current presentation of SAT. By a motif, I mean suggested processes and practices, such as the life statements tree in the SAT Level 1 training. Then SAT itself points to a fourth stage. If you want to find out more about that, look for Richard's article, The Flourishing of a Human Life, on LinkedIn. In another direction, we could look at three different external frontiers for SAT. First, its place in society as a whole, the traction that it's gaining or not gaining on societal problems, whether there's a gap that needs to be bridged, or a disinterest or resistance that might be dispelled, for example, by further explanation. Second, we can look at the relationship between SAT and science as a specific exemplar of the science-spirituality relationship more generally. Where is there conflict? Again, where is there a gap or disconnect? And whether the sorts of interfaces that people have tried to create between science and spirituality to date really constitute a true harmony, or rather a sort of chaotic quasi-peace that's not really fit for purpose. Thirdly, we can look at SAT in its own cultural home therapy, so to speak. How does it sit within the larger human activities of psychotherapy, spirituality, and religion? Where are the boundaries, and what, if anything, is appropriate to a deeper, broader, and more intimate mutual meeting? So again, I'm Nicholas. Next time we'll return to this map briefly before I spend a few weeks sketching a new approach to reality and the human condition, an approach that's consistent with the current version of SAT, but extends it in a number of directions. And then in week 5, I'll bring back the picture that we've looked at this week and use it to show how this extension of SAT offers new and exciting potentials at all of these various frontiers. Thanks for watching. See you next time.